Correct, R40507. Originally, these were all separately programmed projects, and through some negotiation, we determined it would be most effective to do it all at the same time. Not necessarily at the same time, but under the same contract, let me correct that. Contractors have already gotten started. The construction season's underway. Of course, everything we talk about tonight is weather dependent. I want to lay that out from the beginning. All schedules are impacted by weather, and there's going to be a lot of factors that impact how the contractor moves forward. So everything we say tonight could potentially change, but with significant updates, we want to bring you updates, and we're always going to be available, just like we're here tonight. I will be leaving, I'm sorry, I don't mean to turn my back to you all. I will be leaving some contact cards so that if you have a question, complaint, anything throughout this process, you can contact us. This is a hotline number, so I don't want it to feel like you're not talking to a real person. I can promise you that every email or message or phone conversation on this hotline is documented and tracked and will come to the project team, myself included. So please use that tool. It's there to help all of us get a better product at the end. So I kind of want to lay out the general details, and then we can get into some specifics and some questions. Most of the contract is going to have minimal impact to the city and to the residents. Everything from, well, this says 400 South, but it's 300. County Road 300 South, Riley Road. That is the limit for what is basically a resurface from 300 South. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, great. Just resurfacing the road. We're going to mill off the top couple inches and repave it. Pretty simple. I go with that sometimes too. I live in Cambridge City, so I'm somewhat local. I shop here, I eat here, I do a lot of things here, so I don't want to do anything that'll make you all mad. I call it one more road too. From Riley Road up to State Road 38, this is the section that was reconstructed maybe 10 years ago. We will be doing similar work, milling off the top of the road surface and repaving it. Some of you may ask, why do we need to do that? It's a preventative maintenance measure. So you're starting to see some age, maybe some cracking and potholing on that section. Think of a screen protector on your phone. You don't want to wait till the screen breaks. You want to protect the screen, right? So that's what we're doing with that top layer. As part of that, Federal Highway Administration has updated its standards for ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act compliance. So we will be having to reconstruct all of the curb ramps on that section. That will be a little more disruptive to the neighborhoods, but most of those ramps, Jake, how many days of each ramp?
Shouldn't be more than a few days. We'll move
Right.
pretty quick. There's
Less
a lot
than a
of
week?
them we have to get in.
Weather dependent?
Yeah.
Okay. So minimal disruption at each of the intersections, all four corners, to modernize those ADA curb ramps and resurface. There's some other minor work, some fire hydrant adjustments, but it's all related to the resurface and the curb ramp reconstructions. Anything to add on that? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about what's happening south of State Road 38, south of Broad Street? Yes, sir.
The section from Riley to 38 is concrete now. Is it resurfaced concrete or is it going to be a top layer of asphalt?
Are you saying underneath the asphalt it's concrete?
No, it's concrete, isn't it?
No. There may be some.
My bad.
There may be some pavement that has concrete underneath the asphalt,
Okay.
but we're only talking about the top 2 inches of asphalt that will be resurfaced. Any other questions south of Broad Street? That's the simple part. So let's get into what we're calling the reconstruction section. So from north of Broad Street all the way up to the Little Blue River Bridge. Kind of a mixed approach depending on the needs of the assets, as we call them. But when we talk about assets, we're talking about the roads, culverts, bridges, things that are along that corridor. At the very north end is the Little Blue River Bridge. That's why State Road 103 is closed right now. We had hoped to have this informational meeting before that started, but with it being a little bit outside of town, we hope that it would minor impact, and we consulted with the city. So we do apologize for that closure happening before this, but but we hope that it wasn't too disruptive during this first week of construction. We wanted to go ahead and get started and not wait till May. As I said, weather delays things. We didn't want any unnecessary delays, so we went ahead and got started. So State Road 103 is closed at the bridge location. We're also doing a culvert pipelining up in that same area. So access is restricted towards the north end of the contract limits. From Washington Street,
Let's go back to there. We have two houses totally gonna be shut off in between the culvert and the bridge. Is anybody here that is one of those two houses in between the bridge and the culvert area? Right now, you can get through, but when they do the culvert, it's gonna be really tricky. So there's nobody here representing that? Okay.
I don't represent those houses, but I have a bus that goes through there, I believe. So I was trying to figure out, are you talking just south of 150?
that's where the culvert's located.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm thinking one of those two houses might be one of our students' bus stops.
Yeah, there's one on the right and one on the left.
Okay,
One house, the one on
it'd be
the
the one on the
east side way back to the
east
left.
side, I think. It's that.
They have kids that ride a bus?
Yeah, pretty sure. I'd have to do a double check, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Would access from County Road 150 be?
That means you'd
acceptable?
have to go out Osborne Park, Hillsborough Road, come back down 150 and then come back a little bit. And that's you got that out to Hillsborough Road, that past Osborne Park,
Uh-huh.
Hillsborough to 150, back to 103.
Oh, and then come back up and out.
Yeah, you have to go out the same way.
On Southern Road, will they be a detour to help them out?
We do not sign local routes for detours, because we don't have jurisdiction over those routes. But that is always an option for the locals to do. But when you are steering folks on those routes, you're assuming that responsibility for doing so. If you tell somebody to go a certain way. The exception to that is we do have a hospital detour sign, because one of the folks. I hope you can understand that as a safety measure. But if there are some things we can do with signage and barricades along the way, if you have recommendations, we have open ears. If you're observing something that could be adjusted. And I'll give you my card. We did reach out to the school district.
Yes.
But this is more ground mobile operations. We let them know about the closure, but sometimes.
So far, she's doing good.
Okay, great.
So is it gonna it's gonna get crazier? Do you know when?
It's going to get more restrictive, and that culvert's probably going to take about 2 weeks to do. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but it's sometime probably in the next 60 days. So
Maybe after school's over.
it's possible that it may be after school's over, and
Okay.
maybe right towards the
Yeah,
tail
30
end.
some days.
When is the last day of school?
May 27th for Newcastle.
Yeah.
It'll probably start before that, would you say?
Sure.
Yeah. And again, that overlap of the bridge and the culvert, it should be within weeks. It's minimal. It's not going to endure all summer, weather depending. So, but please reach out to me if you have any access issues. We can coordinate that on a local level.
Okay, thank you.
So the culvert and the bridge around 150, that will limit access to approximately 2 homes, and we've coordinated with those homes for access to make sure that's okay. We typically like to provide access from one direction or the other. Whenever we do something, restrict access this time, we want to make sure that we're not adversely impacting anybody who might be running a business or anything in between. But thank you for bringing that up. So south of the culvert, on this section, where the culvert and the bridge are located, again, resurfacing. We're going to be taking off the top surface of the roadway and repaving it. And that's from Washington Street up to the Little Blue River Bridge. From Washington Street south to Broad Street, that's the reconstruction section. That's where it really gets dynamic. That is going to be completely rebuilt. Everything from the sidewalks into the road and many of the utilities down below are going to be brand new. I've talked with some of you on the phone perhaps in the last few weeks. I'm not gonna shy away from it. It's going to be inconvenient. We're closing down the road and reconstructing how you get to your homes. I'm not gonna downplay that. But we're gonna do everything that we can with the plan that we have to get everyone through this project. If you have questions and concerns along the way, we'll be there to hear them. I'm not gonna say that we're always gonna be on the same page or we'll always agree on a resolution, but we will look into it and we will provide you at least with a response and we can have conversations. I'm a real person, you're real people, there's nothing that we can't talk through. But construction is hard. It's hard. It's hard on businesses and homes. I'm not shying away from that. But that's why we're having this conversation right now. If you have issues that we need to address, we want to have that conversation. We want to try to mitigate issues now before we get into construction that we can. And that's where I'm going to get into the letters. Have any of you received letters in the last 2 weeks by certified mail, property owners on 16th Street? We sent those letters to each and every address, not because we were aware of any specific conflicts on that section, but because in our conversations with other property owners, we realized that most property owners were not aware that the platted right-of-way. So when the city was founded, I suppose, they platted city streets and they said this is going to be a public corridor for a street. And then the houses popped up, et cetera, et cetera. That legal property line is actually about 5 feet behind the sidewalk. And we realized a lot of property owners probably don't recognize that, and they maintain the property and consider it theirs. There's some landscaping features, some plantings and things that we observed. We wanted to make people aware that those things are legally right-of-way encroachments, but we don't have any intention of forcing anything off the property that wouldn't be in conflict with our construction plans. It's unnecessary. But with that being said, we wanted to alert people that legally, that property doesn't have a right to be there. If it's a planting or landscaping, whatever it might be, it is in the public space. And if it did incidentally get damaged by construction, we will never, NDOT would not be held responsible. I'm not a judge or a lawyer, but that's the advisement that legal services gave us. We don't want to get into that. We'd rather have the conversations now. If we can avoid something, we'll avoid it. If we can work around it, great. If we need to temporarily remove and replace something, let's talk about that now, before the pavement's all broke up, right?
But you're not finding.
We've noticed a couple small things. The major encroachments we've already dealt with. The VFW
The walls, VFW.
was one of the examples, and we worked with the VFW to address that. Hopefully they would give us an endorsement, but we'll see.
The houses that have retainer walls now, they're gonna be replacing at your guys' cost.
Actually,
Right.
most of the
Okay.
retaining walls, we're able to do this project without reconstructing most of the retaining walls.
527, or you gonna have to do it in the
127.
527 or 16.
Are you just south of Kentucky?
Yeah.
Oh, those are the big walls.
Yes.
Yes.
Those
No.
we're not touching.
We are not touching those now.
So are you widening on the other side?
We are actually not widening the roadway. The sidewalk is going to be the same, or in the same area that it is today. We're going to be working in from that backside of the sidewalk.
It's just marking what the state property is. The stakes that you see, it's just marking their location.
Yes, that is the platted right-of-way line that I was just referencing. So that's your personal property line. That's where private meets public. And anything that would be between the sidewalk, that most people assume is the beginning of the public right-of-way. Anything in that space could potentially be damaged by construction. Not that we intend to, but there's going to be an army of yellow machines out there destroying the road before we make it better. So if there's anything that concerns you, as far as, maybe a tree, maybe some flowers, we don't want to get into that. Let's talk about it now. So
Maybe when it became a state road, you guys could put driveways back to where, because it left a lot of people without parking when it became a state road.
well, I can't speak to
That's
that.
a joke. I mean,
I-
but it is true.
That's
There's
a valid,
lots of people
that's a
that
valid
walk
point.
the driveways.
Let's back up to Broad Street.
Yes, sir.
When 103 comes to Broad, takes a jog to 16th Street. Well, right off the bat, the emergency services will be 18th Street to 20th Street to the hospital. Okay, so that will be in the beginning. That will be right up front. Now, something that always comes up, Pastor, is the alley.
Yes.
Now, I'm confused right now. I don't know which way it goes right now. On food day, it goes one way.
Right. It's whatever they want. It's actually closed off to where you can't, that's the one way where it goes from west to east, okay? And it says a do not enter on 17th Street. You can't come in there by Calvin's lot if that's the do not enter sign. That'll have to be, vacated so we can get up into our parking.
It's just so narrow right there that it's
Sure.
hard to take that a few ways. So
Yeah.
there's conversation there locally. So not that we have an answer for it yet, but we're
Right.
working on that.
Right,
Is that for the food pantry just south of Vine?
Yes.
And to the,
yeah.
Now,
We're the food pantry also. That's us.
Okay.
So
Now-
that's just our exit.
from Woodward to the VFW, if you, the first house on Woodward, there's an alley that comes south all the way through. It's very narrow. We're going to try to fix that up. I mean, it's rough. It's very rough. But when they get in there, that's the only access to the people from VFW to Woodward that there is. I mean, that's going to be, if there's anybody here that lives in between Woodward and the VFW, you're going to be using that alley to go either north or south sometime or another. So we will try our best to keep, the potholes filled and maybe try to make it a little bit wider. But so the first aid or the emergency route is totally going to change right off the bat. So we're taking that and moving that out of the way. But from Broad to Woodward, I'm not sure if that's where you're talking about the driveways and the parking, but it's going to really affect that right there for I don't know how long.
So sign.
I guess maybe that was a good segue to get into talking about the schedule for each of these individual segments. Not to interrupt.
Well, I was just gonna say, some signage on both ends of that alley might be good simply to let people realize this is gonna be narrow and, beware, maybe don't start down until you see an open place.
Well, and just to clarify, this should only be for access to those homes. So even with a narrow alley,
Shouldn't be a lot of traffic.
it should be about as much of a problem as head-on traffic in alleys today, because most are usually one way. And it's neighbors, so hopefully everybody can get along, but that's a point that should be brought up. Access from the front of your homes will be restricted during that reconstruction.
From
We-
Woodward
Anything
to,
gonna happen to Kentucky?
Only the intersection of 16th.
Well,
Well, I
NDOT is only working on the intersection of Kentucky. The city has another project for a CSO separation that is going through Kentucky.
That's why I have to
as
park,
well.
that's why. Very interested.
So, and we have worked very diligently with the city's engineer on that as well, trying to coordinate the schedule between the CSO project and this project as well, and trying to work all of that together as best we can. So the CSO project is going to start at Kentucky, try to get that work in, so then when our contractor comes in for 103, they can kind of tie into that system, work with it, and kind of move to the next location. Right.
We're going to try to take care of that water issue there. We're going to try to take care of that water issue there.
But if there are any access issues, if somehow there's a house that we've overlooked access for, if there's a complaint, if somebody's confused, please let us know so that we can work with those property owners. We're going to leave some contact information for here at the city building. We recognize you don't want to be fielding those questions, comments, and complaints, so please steer them.
It's okay. Dave's in Florida, so he'll be the one fielding questions. So this is a good time to pawn it off on Dave.
Since he's not here, he
Yeah.
gets the full assignment.
And they can contact me too, because that's my precinct. We've been working and talking about this for a few years now, so mayor's done a lot of preliminary work with it, Dave has done a lot of preliminary work with it. I've walked it hundreds of times, turned things over again, and talked to a couple of people that live through there. So I've talked with Paul, and I think I got church straightened out there with Paul.
Yeah, and, you know, if proper signage is put up, that's the key. That's the one thing everybody's got to work on, you know, with the city government, is get the proper signage up. And this is Newcastle, some people don't abide by the signage, but most of us do, okay? VFW was very kind about letting us use their parking lot. And so if worse comes to worse, if we have to use it, no problem. I mean, anything can be worked out. You guys got to do what you got to do, okay? So
I like your approach to it. Anything can be worked out. Let's
It can
just
be worked
communicate.
out.
The final product's gonna be really nice.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be
I'm looking forward to
huge
it.
and brilliant. So,
The smell that you're talking about at Kentucky, we get the heavy rains. If you look to the east side of the road, that whole front yard is underwater.
Yeah.
And it's not all rainwater.
It smells so bad.
And so for a short period of time, we're gonna be 20 foot deep right there.
It
So
smells there bad.
it's a major, and luckily these are working time-wise, hand in hand, that we won't have to close it twice, it'll be closed once.
See, I have no other place to park. Other than,
On Kentucky Avenue, right? Is it just a pull-off or is it actually a driveway?
not to park by the stop sign.
Okay.
Pull off, I guess you'd call it.
Well, we might talk them into trying to bring us another load of gravel to move that parking space back a little bit.
On Kentucky.
Yeah. We'll get something.
And there's always some adjustments. You know, we can put all the signs out there, and there's always a learning curve with traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Typically, within 2 or 3 weeks, people get it figured out, and
Yeah.
you know, we might have to add some signs and barricades. But if you observe something, if you have an issue, please reach out to us, because we don't know. We can't resolve the issue if we don't know about it. So we'll leave our information. Let's keep the dialogue open, and that's applicable for us, for the city, as well as for the neighborhood. With that, I think we can jump into the phasing schedule.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a quick step back. I'm Jamie Stutzel, and we worked on the design 103. Right now, we're in what I'm going to call phase 1, and that's the Little Blue River Bridge is currently shut down. That's approximately going to take 60 days to get completed. Once that is done, the road will then be opened back up. During that time, we're going to try to get in the slip lining that's just north of 20th Street to get that culvert upgraded. And that's when we're going to have this house, and I believe it's, I think the house here, I don't know if there's anyone here in this house. That's when we're going to have those access issues, I think, for the school bus and having to come in off County Road 150. That culvert lining is supposed to take approximately 2 weeks. During that time, we're hopeful too, in that 60 days, that we can get this area resurfaced from Washington up to the Little Blue River and get that work done kind of in what we're calling phase 2. That's that work. The bigger piece is then when we get into phase 3 and phase 4, which is the reconstruction. Phase 3 will be from Woodward up to Washington Street. The roadway there will be completely reconstructed, new storm sewer, new sanitary sewer, new water main, and right now, CenterPoint Energy is currently working on putting in new gas lines. Those gas lines, I think, are about at the right-of-way line, kind of behind the sidewalk and in front of that right-of-way area. During this time, we will have pedestrian access along 103 from Woodward up to Kentucky. What our plan is that we'll work on the east side first, build the new sidewalk, and the sidewalk will now continue all the way up to Kentucky Avenue. It kind of stops right now, it gets to a wooded area, there's a house, it stops. We're going to take it all the way to Kentucky, and then there's actually going to be a crossing there to get to the other side. To one side. Then
On the west side of the road, it will be on the west side only.
well, that's up to Kentucky. So then what we're doing on the west side is we will have sidewalk all the way up to Washington Street. And that's what they're saying on one side only. So you'll have sidewalk now on the west side of the road from Kentucky all the way up to Washington to get up to the elementary school. So that'll kind of happen in that second part. This work we anticipate will happen or start sometime this summer and continue through November. So that is what's going to happen in what we're calling phase 3. Phase 4 then is from Woodward south to State Road 38 or Broad Street, and that is going to start in April of 2023. So this reconstruction, there's a lot of work to be done, so we're doing it in 2 phases over 2 years. So it's kind of a big impact, but this is the easiest way we can find to get this work done. Again, like the mayor said, we have locations here, we have storm and sanitary going 20 feet deep. Also new water main. So during that time, it may not seem like a whole lot's going on, the road's all torn up, but they're gonna be getting a lot of pipe in the ground. And in this phase, when we get into this 4th phase, we're cutting off all access between Broad and Woodward. Pedestrians, we're gonna route back over to 17th Street, and then they can use the streets and the alleys to get back. That is the best thing we can do in this situation because of the depths we're at and the reconstruction is to fully close this down. I think it's in this section, there may be a couple of houses in this section as well that don't have access via the alleyways to the back of their houses. We have provisions in the plans to try to maintain that access throughout construction with temporary stone, with ways for people to get in. For instance, like there's a street here or a house across from Illinois Street. The contractor should be providing stone and ways to get to and from Illinois Street to that house throughout the duration of construction. There may be some times they have to limit and say, hey, for a couple of days, we can't get you to your driveway because we're doing X or Y, but they will work with you during that time to tell you when those things are going to happen and try to find the best time for you and them to get that work done. So that's kind of the basics of what we've got here. When it's done, we'll have a brand new roadway, brand new sidewalk, upgraded ADA ramps, and new utilities within this corridor. And this is the best time to try to get all of this stuff done at once. Yes, Mayor.
Okay, let's say Washington to Broad. Okay, it sounds like it's gonna start north and work its way south, correct?
We'll probably, we're basically going from north to south. When the contractor gets out there, because of where the sanitary and water is, like they may actually start at Kentucky and work north or work south, but in general, we're working from Washington towards the south.
Okay, let's just hypothetically say you get pretty much done from Washington to Woodward, and you don't have you got the base asphalt down, but you don't have the final coat on yet. Would you open that up or through traffic?
Yes.
That half of the project?
Yes, we will. And there are certain time restrictions for each of these closures. Like I believe the 4th phase has a 120-day closure time period. That is when it can be closed and shut down. If the contractor extends past that time, there are liquidated damages that they have to pay. So they have an incentive to get that work done within the time windows that have been set for them. And at certain points, yes, the road will probably be opened back up. We may not have the final lift of asphalt in. We may not have all the landscaping or some of the other things completed and the restoration done. Traffic will still be allowed on the road then at that point, maybe under a flagger control situation. But the goal is for the contractor to get in and out as quick as possible and get the road opened back up so people can get to and from their houses.
Okay.
What are we gonna do with the trash service? Our one-arm trucks can't go into alleys, and we've gotta get people's trash. Is there gonna be a way to access that by us going and manually pulling them to a different point, where we can get to them that way? Or, because you can't go 120 days without dumping people's trash.
No, I think we're gonna have to find different locations and coordinate that, and find how we can get it to the
Of
site.
course, there's gonna be a 20-foot deep hole there.
Trash can placement.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We can help with trash can placement.
Okay. I mean, I know when you've done Broad Street before, it was somewhat difficult. Some of the crew was not real cooperative on some things. So I hope this time that it's more cooperative on this situation than it was before.
We have some more residents through that area, so
Yeah, well, the old one just walked in.
I got a property at 1527, 1529 on Broad. For the last 3 years, I've had problems with the guys parking their vehicles on the empty lot and on my lot. And, they act like they own the property instead of me. All the contractors I've dealt with, I've had, I can't mow the grass. They park the vehicles, they park the machinery, they both of the properties. And now there's a paved lot, got a pole barn. I couldn't even get in my pole barn last year. So they parked right in front of the door.
Who's contractors?
Whoever's working on Broad Street for the last 2 or 3 years, I don't know who the contractors were. But whoever was working on the Broad Street, the actual street.
When it was reconstructed a few years?
Well, last year, they were working on it. I don't know if they've even working on that, maybe they're marking all the vehicles on there.
Are you down by 3?
No, right, the railroad.
No, we're on the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
South side of the railroad tracks.
Across from,
16th Street and 15th Street.
The railroad track and the railroad track.
What was in that? I can't recall the contract. Was
Well,
that?
it wasn't actually a boneyard or anything, but they were using it to park their trucks there even overnight sometimes, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah. And a couple times I couldn't even get them to mow the grass, because they were out working. But, they act like they own the land instead of me, so the contractors that I got into.
This project's not coming that.
Yeah, I know it's
15th
I'm
Street,
just
so.
saying, I don't want to park.
Sure. NDOT or its contractor should not be using private property.
Right.
That they haven't provided compensation for. If that's an issue, please reach out to us.
Go, yeah.
There may be a need for a temporary, on-site meeting in a parking lot or something, but for them to be using.
Oh, yeah, they'll park you all the way.
Sure.
Between them and the railroad.
I'm wondering if it was the railroad.
No, I've got into it with them too. Yeah. They do think they own.
I am just bringing some little cards with NDOT contact information. Questions, comments don't come through me, so they will get to a real person, I guarantee you.
I got you.
All right. But if that's something you observe, please let us know.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. My question is just so I can share it with the congregation, because they're kind of wigging out already. What we're doing for it? We're right there at the corner of Broad Street. That's us, right there. So I'm hearing this right. It's 120 days, but it doesn't start till next year, 2023.
Correct.
That's the only time that we're going to really see the effect of us.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not in no great hurry. All right.
But you should always have access off of Broad Street.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, we will. The other 2 parking lots, the only way you can get to them is off of 16th or come up the alley off 17th. So that's why I say that signage will help us.
They park over.
I want to clarify one thing. The contractor did correct me. So the phase 3 is a 120-day closure. Phase 4 is a 200-day closure.
Woo-hoo! They're not in such a hurry, huh?
Well, unfortunately, this part is where we have deeper
That's
sanitary.
okay. I know, I'm just kidding.
So,
Okay, so
What
200.
area is phase 2? I just got here.
this phase 4 is between 38 and Woodward. Phase 3 is between Woodward and Washington Street. And then we're resurfacing is kind of our phase 2 from Washington up to the Little Blue River.
Where the bridge is.
Bridges,
Is
is closing.
Yes, the bridge is
I'm
currently closed.
Thornburg in 16.
So if you're at Thornburg, that is the phase 4 that will happen next year.
So you're not going to do it this year?
No.
But there will still be some work in the area, utility relocations and whatnot. But it won't be closed down like it's going to be next year.
I'm getting married in my backyard this summer. This is why I'm here. This is one of the reasons I'm here.
You go to Barry, you're the one that got to call back. The dearly beloved, dear God.
I called you to see if you would marry me. You didn't call me back.
You'll have to cancel with me.
I'm between Thornburg and Washington, so when you say my access to my house is going to be restricted, can you explain that?
Yes,
How
so
am I going to be able to access it? Will I be able to take my car in there, or will I have to access it by like parking somewhere else and walking?
Your driveway's off of 103,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Jake, jump into that one. At some point, your access will only be from the rear of your property.
If I have no access from the rear.
There should be rear access on.
In an alley, but it stops before it gets to your house?
I don't know. There's no alley there. There's no alley.
There's no- are you
I'm in
north
the
of-
500 block. Yeah, there is no alley there.
There's a few locations where there's no alley or there's no access, and we've provided temp stone and said that access should be maintained. Those are areas that at times the contractor may have to restrict access for several days, like they're pouring a driveway. They won't be able to get you in. But the goal is that we had temporary means to try to get you to your house through construction. That is something we will continually
So
work out
I
with.
can like walk in, or I'm not far from Woodward, like I'm pretty sure I can park on Woodward, and that's not a problem. I just want to know how to prepare for that, and if I can walk, a couple houses, that's not a problem.
It may be that sometimes, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to provide stone at certain times where you're gonna be able to kind of drive in, get to your driveway and come up. That's kind of the piece of, we need to work out those issues, and that's something that as they kind of do construction, I think we'll have them talk to you directly about that.
Okay, and am I understanding it correctly that that will start this summer? That phase is going to start this summer?
From Woodward north will start this summer, yes.
Okay.
So if you're north of Woodward, I'm sorry, I don't know the hundreds
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm in between like Woodward and Washington.
So the contractor will have some level of coordination with anybody that has a driveway on 16th Street. At some point, that driveway approach, the concrete to the street will have to be rebuilt. It's minimal, we're giving you a fresh approach to your driveway. It has to be done, the concrete has to cure, so there's gonna be some involvement at some level. With some homes with some limited access, that's the provisions that Jamie was talking about earlier, so.
That's fine, I just wanted to know how I can prepare for it in the future, what I can expect.
So it sounds like phase 3 ends in November 22 and phase 4 starts in April 23. So one of the major complaints of the CSO project over the winter was that there was just open roadways, some of them totally gravel. I mean, is it phase 3 totally closed up and then phase 4 begins, or are there going to be ripped up infrastructure in between there through the winter?
There shouldn't be much ripped up infrastructure between the winter. We may not have, like, say, the final surface course and striping
Right.
on phase 3 done, but I think your intention is to get up to base to fully open it.
Yeah.
And that's what they're gonna have to do.
It'll be plowable in the
It should
winter.
be plowable. We may get some standing water if like they can't get surface down or decide not to put surface down, we may get some standing water at the gutter lines.
Yeah.
And the sidewalk should be open. That's also depending on how schedule goes, if we can get restoration of seed, sod down or not. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't.
Right.
But yes, it should be
awesome.
open to traffic, it should be plowable through
Yeah.
the winter.
Great.
We have provisions in there too to have some temporary ramps between the new sidewalk and the old sidewalk to make sure everything works during that time. And then come April, we'll come back and we'll start the process over again.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I always like to add, barring unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, right. No, I get that.
With urban road construction,
Right.
there's always the potential for surprises that impact schedule, let alone the weather. So
Yeah.
I always have an asterisk on everything we're saying.
I mean, I think the Winters family owned a house on North 16th Street, so who knows?
Might find a dead body.
Right across the street.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard about it many times. I do have a question
Yes.
about the 5 foot, I read in the letter. 5 foot from inside the sidewalk?
So from the back side of the sidewalk, approximately 5 feet is where the right-of-way line is. There should be stakes out there that I believe have yellow ribbon on them. That is marking where the right-of-way line is of what you own and what the state of Indiana owns.
Kind of look like this.
I've seen several of them. My problem is that 5 foot takes my tree, my steps and railing up to I live on a hill.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of us that live on a hill down through there.
So when we reconstruct the sidewalk, we also will be reconstructing the sidewalk and the steps up to that right-of-way line. So that will all get reconstructed up to that point. If you have a rail, the rail should probably go back in. The steps will get redone. Once we get past that line, we're kind of done with our work. Trees, I think several trees have already been taken down. If there are other trees, we'll try to save them. But if they are inside that 5 foot, there is no guarantee that they will be saved.
Do you face Woodward or do you face 16th Street?
I face 16th. I am on the east side of 16th, on the corner of 16th and Thornburg. Great house, burgundy shutters. And I have done a ton of landscaping
Yes.
in my life. I built a brick wall around the tree myself. And also, on the corner of my property, probably not my property, as I'm to understand, there's a cement post.
The cement post will be staying there.
Yeah.
And you have, because you're on the southeast corner, I believe as long, that tree should be remaining in place.
Okay, you've been there, because I talked to the engineer, John,
Yes.
about that post. It is an antique post
Yes.
that they used to mount the old mailbox on. And I bought a mailbox to put on there, but I haven't because of you guys.
That post should be staying in place. Your tree is not scheduled to be removed.
Okay.
As we dig and where those roots are, I cannot tell you. So my hope is that it does not get damaged in the process, but like the thing that Nathan talked before you arrived was the brick pavers and stuff, some of the stuff you have there, that's the stuff that we talk about, the encroachments that you may want to remove during construction,
Yeah.
because as the contractor comes through, those could get damaged or lost. Part of this as well as we do the new water line, the new sewer lines, there'll be new hookups, new meters. That all will be done as part of the project as well.
Also, are you going to build any walls like you did on 18th Street?
We are not building any walls in this
Fix
project.
anybody's property or not? Because we had gotten home improvement loan and was scheduled to build a wall this year. And John also told me not to do that. But you're not going to
We are
fix
not.
any property like that?
We are not building any walls as part of the project.
So it's just going to be straight down?
It's not going to be, you're still going to kind of have that slope down. I believe near your property, the sidewalk may be coming up a little bit higher, but we're talking several inches.
I know that intersection there is low.
Yes.
And I've seen cars hydroplane there in the rain.
And that is with the brand new storm sewer system and increased inlets. Our hope is that there is no longer water standing there unless it is a major rain event.
I've had it at least 3 foot up to my hill before, and people drive through there. I'm surprised they had little wrecks. But he said that was good, they were gonna work, you were gonna work on
Yes.
that. But this won't be until next year.
That work will happen next year, yes.
Good.
I just like to see the clarification, just to make sure I'm not confused. I'm gonna have access to my mail,
Yes.
my Changer wall is going to stay,
Yes.
and I'm gonna go to park on, what's that street? Kentucky, right?
Which corner are you on? The north or the south corner of Kentucky?
Pardon?
Which corner are you on?
I'm next to it. I'm 527.
You're one of these houses, right? So this is Kentucky, you're one of these houses right in here. So this is Kentucky and this is where we're parking currently.
Right.
She's right there. Are you right at this place?
No, I'm not on the corner, I'm next to it.
You're here.
Doesn't look like my house, but I guess so.
Could you give me your phone number before you leave?
I will. Thank you so much.
Are there other questions?
When they replace the water line and sewer, gas lines, sewer lines, whatever, are they gonna go up on the property itself or just to the street?
They will probably go to that right-of-way line. So like the water, I believe all of the water meters are in state right-of-way. So we will go up to replace the water meter and stop the water meter. The sanitary will come somewhere to the sidewalk close to the right-of-way line as well. The gas company is doing that relocation work. I assume they'll do the same thing. They'll generally stay within the right of way and connect to the existing lines that go to the rest of the house.
Really, to me, it sounds like you're really not doing anything on the west side. It's just gonna affect people. Well, like her, I know she has to walk up.
We'll get new sidewalk on the west side of the road. We'll get new driveways on the west side of the road. But we're staying out of those retaining walls that are just south of Kentucky. They're in decent shape, and we're going to stay out of those. Are there any other questions? We'll probably step out, and if people have other specific questions or other things, Nathan does have some cards. Those of you who got letters have his phone number as well. But we're more than happy to stick around and answer some additional questions if anybody has them, any specifics, and we will do our best to work with you throughout the construction. We've done our best to work and coordinate with Newcastle and everything else that is going on at the same time as well. So,
Are you going to have an office site for this project?
NDOT does have an office site.
Here's the new office. Oh, it's where it's not.
Out of Royals,
Yeah.
right in Royals parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah, there will be someone from NDOT that's there and on site.
And we will be leaving a set of plans, as well as these boards. And we will be available if you think of any questions. I realize this is a lot of information, you might have to simmer on it. Think of anything, please reach out, let us know.
Really quick question, sorry. If the bus driver goes north on 20th Street, up by the hospital, and then she makes a left and goes south on 103, she definitely will run into some of this.
So that culvert is just north of 20th Street.
Right.
Yes.
She wouldn't be able to go any further north on 103.
That's good. Okay. That works. Because when I saw something on the map, but when I looked online, it seemed like there was a house that was just south of 20 on 103 that would be affected with where she was trying to pick up, and that's why I was just trying to figure
Okay,
it
so
out.
it's not the house north of there then?
Not north of 20.
Okay.
So we're
then,
good.
Then yes, she can come up 20th, come down 103 and make that.
And then she's all right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So now we can start asking questions about State Road 3. No, I'm just kidding.
See how red their face just turned?
I'm just kidding.
I know nothing about State Road 3.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
Aaron, I'll be back.
It's ominous.
Gentlemen, we want to thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, we're partners in this. Your city street is our highway. We've got to work together. And your neighborhood is our highway. We want everybody coming out happy on this. That's a tall order, but we're going to try our best.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time.
Okay, we'll proceed into resolutions. The only resolution we have is number 041820022-1, authorizing the allocation of coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds for the provision of specified government services and further amending the city's written plan for expenditure. To save time, I'm going to not read all the legalese, which we've read several times on this exact same resolution. But basically, to get the point now, therefore, be ordained by the Common Council of the City of Newcastle, Indiana, as follows. 1, the Common Council hereby allocates a sum of up to $50,000 for demolition of vacant or abandoned structures located within the city. Demolition must be completed by November 11, 2022, before the funds may be allocated to other uses. 2, the Common Council hereby allocates the additional sum of up to $80,000 of replacement revenue lost due to the COVID-19 public health emergencies. The sum allocated under this resolution shall be utilized for constructing or repairing sidewalks on North 14th Street from Michigan Street to Garter Street. Work must be completed by November 11, 2022, and the funds may be allocated for other uses. 3, the written fiscal plan for the expenditure of revenue received from the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund is attached here too as Exhibit A. The remaining sums received by the city of Newcastle through the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund may be utilized for any of the purposes set forth in 42 U.S. Code 803, what is to C. The written plan for expenditure will be amended from time to time as determined by the Common Council includes any other expenditures. And then it goes on to say the Common Council, number 4, the Common Council previously adopted resolution 0307-2022-3. Basically, what that resolution did is it'll allocate some of $80,000 as replacement for revenue lost in the COVID-19 public health emergency, and directed that this amount be utilized for repair or replacement of sidewalks from Main Street, on Main Street from M Avenue to I Avenue. The cost of that work will be significantly less than the amount allocated for sidewalk repair or replacement in the resolution. The Common Council allocates the excess amount to the repair or replacement of sidewalks abutting the Bay Bridge Diamond on M Avenue from Roosevelt Avenue to South Main. And I would move that we pass resolution 04182022-1.
Second that motion.
On number 2, with what they just said, should we extend that date of November 11th, 2022 on number 2 for Michigan and Garner in case they get?
Well, they're not. That's not where they're doing.
Are they paving through there?
No, that's on 14th.
That's my bad. I'm sorry.
So anyway, is there any other discussion?
Well, one thing I'd like to ask the other council members and maybe Mary Ward, maybe go down through there and look. We come up, Lee's already looked at it for me. Which side you think those sidewalks should go on? On the west side, there's a pretty deep ravine. On the east side, it's not so bad. My concern is on the west side that it.
Personally, I was just kind of up to Dave to determine which, to look at.
It's pretty easy to see it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So, I really appreciate it, even considering this. I'm glad that you understand that a lot of people use that part of our city to get to the trail. It's used almost every day, right? I've seen you running on it quite a bit. So it's really appreciated. I think it's smart on our part trying to tie all these trailheads together with what we can. So really appreciate it.
I was kind of under the impression last meeting with some of this excess, we were going to replace sidewalks from the Bay Bridge Diamond to the pool, that stretcher that goes in front of the courts.
We never talked about that in last meeting.
Okay, well, my brain.
It doesn't mean we couldn't look into that, but I thought maybe they would do some of that with the parking lot. That's, we've got, we have time to look into that and certainly other things, because I know Jerry's got there's a couple other things out in that area that we need to look at, so.
But logistically, I was
But
thinking
there is some,
that it was in that project.
But it could
At some
be.
point, we need to look at that, for sure.
That needs to be done. It's underwater every time it rains a little bit. It's underwater right there. As they add onto the skate park, I think that's when the right time to.
Some of that's coming out.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a walkway that's on South Main there, that's dedicated, where the parking area stops. There's a marked dedicated park or walkway that way. So we can take some of that sidewalk that's north of the skate park out and not have to replace that. Because the design will come out.
so maybe we want to kind of wait and see what
Okay.
they're gonna get done. I also thought we need to go down on Q Avenue from the corner where the fire station is down, well, yes, but from there to Roosevelt where the other sidewalk, so be a walking track.
And we also talked about extending from Washington Street out to the hospital.
That's another, there's.
Depending on what that project is.
Well, we blew that one on Q Avenue. On O, for some reason they put 2 sidewalks on there, and we just didn't see it until it was too late. Have 2 sidewalks in there now. And from across Cherrywood on Q, there's sidewalk, and then where the railroad tracks was, there's no sidewalk, and then it picks back up. Sidewalk picks back up, so we need to put a sidewalk.
Yeah, there's several places we need to look at. We'll get that, we've got time then.
Yeah, we had that in this road plan, and now on O, we have sidewalks on both sides of O. And don't need it. We could have taken one of those out and put it up there, and it'd been paid for out of the long-term control plan. So we kind of missed that.
Any other discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walton.
Aye.
Aaron Diggins. Mark Hogarth.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Beckles.
Aye. So that's all the resolutions. We'll go with Mr. Hancock for any.
I just got a couple, that's what Jake Parker, so I'll just wait 2 weeks.
Mr. Walden?
I've been working with Kenny on some things, and there've been a lot of conversations about the city not doing its job with these rundown properties and so on, and I know better than that. And Rex, you and I had a conversation about this, so I asked Kenny if he'd be willing to say a little bit of something this evening about what his process is and what all they do, because they work very hard at this. There are not many times that I contact you or Jeff and I hear back from them that very day. So, Kenny, would you want to kind of explain the process that your office goes through when you get notification about a junky house or rundown property or whatever?
Well, basically, when we discover this, we send out a letter and give them 15 days to get in compliance. Some things, 15 days to contact our office. If they don't do that, then we'll cite it in the city court. Sometimes it takes up to 30 days to get it cited in. And once we reach city court, it's in the judge's hands. It depends on how many reviews he gives them. If he gives them 2 or 3 reviews and they're 30 days apart, before we know it, we're 6 months in on the same property. So if we can speed that process up somehow, it would really.
And if that property is sold within that process, what happens?
We gotta start all over. If there's somebody takes deed of the property, we gotta start completely over. And if they're out of state, we have no recourse really. We can't make contact. And Joel has got some, you got us ordered to clean on several of them. But if we could maybe get it through the court a little faster, I think it would help.
And, you know, if 15 days and 30, that's 45 days for someone to get that property under control. Then when they go to court, it can get another 30, 60, 90 days out from then. So somehow we need to get this shortened.
Yeah.
And you know, he sends out letters, he talks to them.
Is this just a ordinance reclassification, Joel, or something?
There's a way I think you can do it. I'll need to look at what the code provides and state code provides, but I think there's a way you could probably expedite the process.
I would say to,
Maybe eliminate some of the cases that would need to necessarily be filed as actions in city court versus ones that we can take action on more directly. But yeah, I'll look at that and give you guys can come up with a plan for it.
Yeah, it's like I've said many times, if you're, some of these properties, I wouldn't want to be across the street from next door to. I don't think any of us would do that. Kenny or Jeff went out and looked at a property today, and it's awful. I wouldn't expect that to happen close to me, and I don't expect it to happen to other citizens of the town. You know, it's not right. People got to be held responsible for the properties. I mean, you can pick stuff up. If you can't, notify the city. My goodness, if I know someone can't do it, if they're older or whatever, I'll get a troop to go there and do it. Well, I serve on the housing committee. That's probably the best committee I've ever served on. And we can help people out if they can't do it themselves.
Our main
We can
problem,
get it done.
our main problem is out-of-state buyers.
Yeah.
And our land bank, I think, is gonna help on that somewhat.
That's all I wanted to say with that. Mike, you want to give us an update on Land Bank properties?
I think the only update is Joel and Mark Crump closed on another property today, over by Eastwood School. It's one of those properties that you think, why would anybody want it? But he has plans for it, so it's great.
It's 804 South 21st Street. Yep, that one. One of the questions he asked was, can you go on the property? As soon as he gave us his check, I said, absolutely. So
that puts us over 30,000 in our account now, so we're moving along. We're getting these properties back on the tax base, and Mike's worked his telling off on that, Lisa Lovelace, so if you ever see them out and about, please thank them. And Joel's done a lot of heavy work on this too, so really appreciate it. That's all I have.
Mr. Dickett?
No.
Mr. Cogar? Mr. Reed?
I need to bring up something. If everybody read their Board of Works minutes last time, in the spirit of our sidewalk rehabilitation in the city, I own a property across from Parker School, J Avenue, and when we moved the limit to $1,000, well, that moved the needle for me to replace sidewalks there because it's for school kids and Little League players. Anyway, I replaced the 65 feet of sidewalk there. But it was brought to my attention that elected officials are exempt from that reimbursement. So I have returned that money to the clerk's office for that. But it does bring up a question why anybody would be exempt from repairing sidewalks. My fault. I guess I didn't read the ordinance complete, but I didn't assume that anybody would be exempt from repairing sidewalks in our city. So
is that a state rule or something?
no, I mean, that's part of the ordinance.
It's part of the ordinance.
Yeah.
Simply because when we wrote it, we felt like, because we're not going to be on this council forever. We don't know, who's going to be on here. And that helps us to avoid any appearance of evil, basically, by saying the city council people are not going to do that.
Well,
even if I could, I wouldn't, because I don't think it's quite right to benefit the city.
I kind of have to disagree with that. There's no way of any fraudulent behavior there, because if you meet the guidelines with permits and inspections and everything the way it is, I mean, why would we want to penalize anyone that's trying to repair sidewalks in our city? I understand if there was a way there that you could defraud the system, but it doesn't seem like there's anyone that could do that. So that's just my opinion. But anyway, I gave the money back, and so that's what we.
If we're trying to improve all the sidewalks, I mean, to me, it seems like we're trying to improve all the sidewalks.
None of the ordinance actually state elected officials or any of their immediate family members, so.
Did we do that, or did we inherit that?
No, that's our.
We did it.
2012, I believe. When we started the sidewalk program. Well, you were not on.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Am I the only one that feels that way? I mean, honestly, I got a house on Main Street that I was going to do next, but it's off the table. So,
I mean, I understand the sentiment of wanting, and here I said I wasn't going to talk for a while. I understand the sentiment of wanting to repair all the sidewalks in the city, but if we're going to, do that, well, let's raise the threshold to 2,000 and I'll do, mine. I think the optics, I understand what you guys have said. I'm conceding that point, but I think the optics as directing taxpayer dollars and using that for our benefit, even though it is benefiting the city. I mean, we've said time and time again, the sidewalks are the property owners, so I just don't like the
I think
optics.
most of the people on city council have the means to do a sidewalk.
Well, wait a minute. But I'm also, that was a vacant property that I bought, that sat there and empty, and I've talked about buying more properties to do the same thing. Well, when you talk about investing in properties, it's a numbers game. It's just the way it works. I mean, $1,000 sometimes can move the needle one way or the other if I'm gonna buy that property or not. You know, it comes down to math, so I disagree with that, so. Anyway, that's all I've got.
Try to make it quick. First thing, the mausoleum, where are we at on the mausoleum?
There were more problems than just the appearance of the outside of it. We've got the roof fixed, and so now we're getting ready to have it power washed, and we'll have it looking a lot better by Memorial Day.
Then I wanted to mention the BRAC committee. I have, our representative, Bill Brown, has been in communication regularly about that. Jerry is on that committee. I know he and Jerry, I mean, sounds like it's going well. And
Applications are ready, letter has been put together and sent out certified mail to all the property owners within that area.
Okay.
We're going to be knocking on doors, passing out bulletins, just bullets of what is better. Basically, RDC is for the storefronts, and this money can be used for interior also. That's in a roundabout, very simple step.
I have to make this statement after that conversation we just had. We appointed Bill Brown on that committee. And as of, with this conversation we just had about elected officials and sidewalks, in that same tone, I would feel that Bill Brown having property inside that district, that he should not be able to, the same way, he should not be able to send an application in for any money on a property that he owns.
well, they have a conflict of the Main Street group, which is over that committee, correct?
We're a separate.
They have developed a conflict of interest guidelines.
Bill has made a statement that he will not apply.
Okay, yeah, just so any of his properties would not be eligible.
But I mean, on that committee,
He's
there
not
are,
going to apply.
yeah, on that committee, there are probably a number of people that have either a direct or indirect, you know.
Well, even with Main Street, it's a.
Right, it's just, you know, in this town, it's hard, you know, in a town our size, it's hard not to have conflict.
Bill does not want to put himself in that position, is my understanding.
Have we applied for the community crossings grant this year? That's all in the county got.
We're applying for the second round, not the first round.
And that comes summer or fall.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I've been in communication with some people called the Veritas Group. I'd like to have them come to a meeting and talk to us a little bit about sports parks. And I don't want to get into a big discussion on sports parks today, but you know, I believe that, you know, you ought to try to be part of the solution. I'd like to have somebody come and fill us in on how the process on that would work, and potentiality of having feasibility study done, because if it truly is a great thing, then I want us to fully support it. If it's not, then I want to know one way or the other. And I think having somebody come and give us a presentation might not be a bad idea. So we'll do that at some meeting in the future.
I've got some more information about that for you too. The people that own Pendleton, and they own the Finch Creek. Yeah. Finch Creek in Noblesville. I mean, they own that. They literally own. We wouldn't own it.
I know you talked about Pendleton and a couple other places, but I think a perfect model for us would be Yorktown. What Yorktown has, where Muncie is at.
That's like Finch Creek.
I mean, if you're gonna model something, I think that's what you need to model.
I agree.
I mean, building wise, plenty of space for building, and, you know, their concession stand with their diamonds right by it is just second to none. It's been there for 15 years now.
Guys, think having this group come, or some group, and just let us know what a feasibility study can do in terms of the actual cost of the facility, the actual maintenance and operations, and the potential income could be big in terms of us actually being able to make an informed decision on that. So anyway.
We probably need more than one group.
Well, we might have more than one come over the course.
The feasibility study in Noblesville was a $20 million influence on Noblesville. And I'm sorry, Pendleton, and Noblesville is $35 million. It took Noblesville from at 38.
That's what I want to see. I want to see
no hotels to 4
some real numbers from a real professional company with what they could do for Newcastle versus, that's a different.
I'd love to take you guys on trips if you want to go see them. I'd love to show you.
Anyway, we'll turn it over to you for your report.
You got anything, Chief?
I do not.
Chief? Anything else, Ken? Mike?
I don't have anything other than I want to apologize to Councilman Purdue. I should have caught that issue on sidewalks before it got that far. No problem, so.
Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
We had the Easter egg hunt, it was great, all the kids were happy, and that's over.
Ken? Done? Great. Lee?
Okay, anybody from the community want to speak?
I'm Val McNellis, 801 Hawthorne, and I guess since I walk so much, or I did, I'm appreciative that anybody that fixes the sidewalks. There's a lot in town that are very bad shape that aren't getting cited because they're a health and safety risk. So I think that's something you guys should look at too. And that doesn't mean they're in different areas, because I walk all through town, but there's some that are really treacherous, and I don't want to at this age fall and break my arm or leg and have issues. So I don't know. And when I did my sidewalks, I was still very lucky that I could pay half the price, and the prison was doing some of the sidewalk issue to offset the cost, or it would have been tough on me. And I make a decent living, so I appreciated any of that help that you could get. So.
Well, we've kind of went to the school hard knocks on trees and sidewalks, and we've had to cut roots out from underneath sidewalks.
Oh.
It's like the very next winter, an ice storm comes and then it tears down lines. One on Bundy fell on a car, and so I mean, I wish there was a no tree planting in between sidewalks and roads ordinance that.
I just don't have plumbing or redundant.
We did. Because it has bit us badly every time that we've.
And I know I'm responsible for my trees, and we've had to get those cut down, but a lot of people don't do that till the bitter end because it's not an inexpensive expenditure. So I think, anything you can to help people, it helps. So that's just me though.
I'd like to see us revisit that. I think I brought it up a year or two ago about any time a house is sold or extensively remodeled, that the sidewalk has to be inspected, and if it's not up to code, it's got to be taken care of.
Okay, but I'm a single mature older lady now, and I budget out what I can afford, and I have a crack in my sidewalk right now. I did a major plumbing issue, but I couldn't do the sidewalk at the same time. So you still have to look at what you're available to do, Rex.
No, I'm not saying I'm just saying when a house changes hands, that house ought to have a sidewalk that's up to code.
Well, if it comes to my plumbing or my sidewalk, I'm
Well,
going to plumbing or my furnace, you know what I
I'm
mean?
not talking about your house.
No, but I just mean anybody, you're gonna pick the things you have to make it livable.
But only if they're selling their house.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Yeah. I do think it's a shame that somebody's wanting to fix up a sidewalk and it's not available to you guys because you guys might be flipping homes or whatever, and that is beautifying the city. But I think maybe what we ought to look at too is if we're doing city sidewalks, if the city's doing their sidewalks, look at the curbs also, because curbs there at Circle Main where people are driving over the curb and parking in the mud, just looks terrible. And those curbs ought to be fixed before sidewalks are fixed, because they're just going to continue driving over the sidewalk. So that's something to think about in future projects.
Whose responsibility, is the curb also the responsibility of the homeowner?
I think that's part of the sidewalk.
Well, that stretch through there where it Main Street curves, I mean, you know this, but it's a portion of grass between the curb and the sidewalk.
We've actually got no parking signs up here now.
Yeah.
Between, right here by Circle Street, all the way down.
That on the west side.
On the west side, we have.
I think
no
Mike's
parking because of
talking
that.
more on Circle Street.
No, on Main.
On Main.
Parking. There's no grass there.
Well, no, but I mean,
It's a gully there.
Right. Not making excuses, but if you're going west on Trojan Lane and you get down to the Banks yard, they spend a lot of money on keeping that yard nice. The road in years past, has been added to, and it literally, the curb's gone. And I mean, it's just hard to, it should have been milled every time before there was another layer put down. And it's like that a lot of places, and it makes it tough to have a correct curb.
Okay, see nobody else?
Well, I have one quick question.
Yeah. Going back to the abandoned homes, I've lived on my property over 10 years now, and there's one abandoned home that's been empty since then, across from the VFW, kind of diagonal. They tore down a couple. This past summer, the door's padlocked, and they keep cutting them off. And we had at least 6 people was ran out by the police that were sleeping in there. And then they pitched a tent in the backyard. They weren't sleeping in the house. They pitched a tent in the backyard. And every few months, the lock's cut, and it's been unoccupied, and it is about ice for 10 years.
Is that on the demo list?
Do we know who owns that?
I know who was in it, and we did get them removed or put, occupied on it. That's been vacant probably since I've been here. It's like a 3-unit apartment building.
Yeah, it's a great meeting, several different colors.
Too long ago, but
Somebody, I think they got purchased in a tax.
by the couple from Indianapolis that purchased the lot next to it.
It's sitting on the 18th Street.
Yeah, there's some new owners that we're hopeful will take care of it.
So far, they've
They've been
Yeah.
good on other properties. Yeah. And,
It's gonna take a lot of money to take care of that.
as soon as they bought that, they went in and cut all that brush away.
Yeah.
Because they were
I'm
having
hoping
camp,
they did that to tear it down.
they were out there having campfires.
Oh, yeah, a tent and a campfire. I mean, you could sit at 16th. I didn't know how many.
So I wonder where they're using the bathroom.
I don't even want to know where it's at.
Right in the backyard, Mr. Mayor,
That's a-
next to the tent.
Well, to you and Mike, I know that you've been trying to get 5 or 6 houses at a time from the county. We're always gonna get these questions, because there's always gonna ask about the one that we're not pursuing. I think you should just.
Well, I see a lot of
ask for
abandoned
all of them.
ones, but this is the first time I've actually seen people moving out on a regular basis. It must have an appeal for someone.
Well, they were throwing stuff out of that upstairs window one time when I drove by. So.
Yeah, I see a lot.
I
I
knew-
see a lot.
I knew a couple of kids in there, they were former students. I should have known.
Oh, no. And you can imagine how dangerous it is.
Yeah. You don't want to go there.
No, don't worry.
Okay, anybody else?
Rick, I do have one question real quick for the traffic committee. About a month ago, the mayor brought up, over there by 17th Street. We had a situation where we had to back a trash truck out there because cars were parked on both sides. There was an older person who was coming towards the trash truck. We couldn't get past, we had to back all the way back out. Have you guys looked at that on?
I looked at it, and actually, when I looked at it, there was a truck there, and I think they were sitting waiting on something, but it looked like they had plenty of room. I think we talked, and the next step is to just go knock on doors. I mean, it's not going to take long, so as long as it's not snowing out, I'll take a lunch break and go do that and just pull them. I mean, what stinks is I don't know how many of them have driveways. I mean, we always run into this.
Right.
I don't know how many of them have driveways. And it looks like some of the properties have multiple cars. I think maybe you mentioned that.
Yes.
So I mean, we'll knock on doors and get the opinions of people living there, and then we'll kind of see what we can come to a conclusion.
The obvious solution would just make it a one-way.
Right.
And go up to Erie, I think it's Erie, that runs along the track, make it back out to 18, and then Goodwin's Street comes back out.
Make it a loop, basically,
Yeah,
one way
one
with
way.
the street off of 18 coming in as
and
a
then
one-way.
the cul-de-sac, obviously, it had to be two ways back there, but to me, that would make, that way you don't have, you're not meeting. So,
What about parking on one side?
well, I don't know that that's gonna eliminate that issue if you still leave it a two-way street.
Well, I don't think making it a one-way street, I bet you find people going the wrong way. But I think it will.
Oh, yeah, that might work if you've done it just one way, put it that way on.
We'll do what we do every other time, and maybe January 23 we'll look at changing committees.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Done.
You gotta take him out to dinner.